Hi, everyone. From me, Brent Graham of goodforthegame.ca, and welcome to the Stage 10, a preview of the Tour de France. It's Monday, the second Monday of the Tour de France, generally a rest day. Not this time, though, because it's Monday, July the 14th. That's Bastille Day. And yes, we're expecting the fireworks to fly on what looks a very, very exciting and a tough route that the organizers have put together. Before we get into that, though, if you are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button and the bell, and you'll be notified of our videos when they go up. And of course, any likes are very much appreciated. Right, before we talk about stage 10, stage 9, I'd lambasted the Tour de France organizers for putting together what looked like two very boring stages on the weekend. Certainly, Saturday's stage wasn't particularly exciting. But although stage 9 ended up in the predicted sprint, we had the two favorites, in fact, first and second, Malia and Milan. It was far from boring, and that was because Alpecin de Koenig, they attacked early, right at the start, through their man Rickards, and he was joined by Matteo van der Poel. And the two of them quickly built a lead up of over a minute, and I think a few of the teams just thought they might be looking to wrap up the green jersey points, perhaps put van der Poel back in the race. It was far from that, though. They were always eyeing out the stage win, and they managed to get 5 minutes, and suddenly you could see the peloton start to panic, particularly the Ladel Trek team of Milan. Milan himself did a lot of work on the stage, which I think actually cost him in that final sprint finish. But in the end, it was Van der Poel who was caught in the final kilometer. There was plenty of drama, though, because there was a bit of a tailwind, which certainly helped the break, but also a bit of tail crosswind coming in. And you had situations where Visma, for example, would go to the front and the commentator would say they're trying to bring Van der Poel back. But it wasn't that, in my opinion. They were trying to cause as much havoc in the peloton as possible. Wind probably not quite strong enough and perhaps a little bit too much from behind to have a massive impact. But we did get a couple of splits, and it certainly ended up being a thrilling stage. And it's kind of weird. I had my money on Milan. And by the way, if like me, you took it at World Sports Betting, you can get your stake back in the form of free bets. But it was strange because although I had my money on him, I was honestly at one stage just pulling for Van der Poel to hang on. And he certainly made it a brilliant Sunday afternoon of viewing. And you could always see he was going to get caught. It was touch and go at a couple of stages, but he was caught with about 800 meters left. Heartbreaking for him, but certainly what a brilliant ride by the pair of them, really, and made for such an entertaining day's riding on a stage where we didn't expect it. As far as the sprint goes, brilliant sprint from Merlier. Milan perhaps hitting the front a little bit sooner than he would like. I thought he would hold on, though, but Malia came around him in the end fairly comfortably. And I was just happy to see Milan hang on to his second place with Arnaud de Lee showing some big improvement there for the Lotto team. He almost nipped second place, and then we wouldn't have got our stake back. Good sprint as well by Pavel Bittner. But anyway, before we get on to the stage, let's quickly run through the outright standings. No change there. Pogacar, 54 seconds ahead of Remco. Vingegaard is 117 back. A subtle change in the betting. Going into this last stage, Pogacar 1.16. He's now 1-5 or 1.20 here with World Sports Betting. Vingegaard has come in half a point as well from 5.50 to 4-1, he come in from 9-2 to 4-1. So why the change? Well, quite simply, it's because the big news, of course, is that Almeida is out of the tour. Unfortunately, couldn't recover from his injuries on stage 8. So he's out. And if Pogacar was going to lose or didn't want to lose one rider, it would have been him. He's been absolutely superb in setting Pogacar up, but he can play such a role in the mountains, chasing down Vingegaard if necessary, chasing down Jorgensen. And I actually think, although Pogacar, I would fancy would still go on and win the race, that's actually a big, big loss because, and I think it might see UAE ride perhaps a little bit less aggressively than what they were planning because they've lost a very important option there. He's got other good support, Sivakov, Yates. Yates hasn't looked so good yet, but they could be holding him back. Of course, Wellens has been looking superb. You got Pollitt for the flatter parts, but Almeida, what a loss, and that is why we've got that subtle betting change there in the outright. Right, let's have a look at the green jersey. Milan, he came third then in the intermediate sprint behind the two breakaway riders, and he was second in the stage. He's pulled his lead now to 71 points over Pogacar. Gamay, not looking particularly good. He's a further 5 points back. And Merlier, 150, he's still 77 behind. So if there were more sprint stages left, I think Merlier could challenge, but I don't think there's enough sprint stages left for him. Let's have a look at the betting. This is taken at Sunbet, 2-15 Milan, and you got Pogacar now at 6-1. Now, I think Pogacar is still a potential danger to Milan. I don't know, 6-1, this might be the stage where you might want to have an interest on it. Of course, once again, he's not focused on it, so that could be your issue. Malia here, I see, has moved into 20-1. Van der Poel, I think the bookies are just taking no chances on that one. No change to the King of the Mountain. Of course, we expect a new King of the Mountains by the end of stage 10 because there are plenty of points up for grabs, as you'll see now. Pogacar actually has shortened despite not doing anything in the last day or two, but he's actually shortened from even money to just above a 7-10. Right, let's talk, though, about the Bastille stage. It's taken us 5.5 minutes to reach this point. What a great stage. And, of course, being Bastille Day, everyone's always talking about the French wanting to win it. Unfortunately, from my recollection, the French don't win it very often, but we are going to get all sorts of action here in the break. You can see it's not very long until we get a Cat 2 climb, 4.1 kilometers at 6.3%, an ideal launch pad for the break. Before I get into that, though, let's just have a look at the position of the sprint after 44 kilometers. Now, I would think that there might be a thought from Lyle Trek, for example, to try and hold it together for the sprint. The problem is in this terrain, Milan himself may not make the sprint if other guys go hard in that in the break. So I don't necessarily think that's going to be a factor. But if it is a slower start to the stage, then I think they might try and keep it together so that he can rack up some more points against Pogacar there. But just a sort of a throwaway comment there. Let's go back to this. We've got the Cat 2 climb. You'll see we've got another 4 Cat 2 climbs that follow, then a Cat 3, and then another couple of Cat 2 climbs. So plenty of action. All of them sort of medium distance and quite decent gradients. This is considered a mountain stage, although we don't have any massive high mountain peaks in the Massif Central, but it's what I call hard riding roads. These are the stages you remember quite often for years and years to come. So what's going to happen? Well, I can tell you Visma are going to try to cause all sorts of chaos and put UAE under pressure. They're definitely going to try and infiltrate the break. You'll get maybe the likes of Affini. I think Jorgensen's going to try to get into the break. And for me, that's what UAE have got to try and prevent. They've certainly got to try and stop Jorgensen getting up the road. I don't think they're going to be able to prevent all of the Visma riders getting into the break. So I do see Visma potentially getting it up. UAE are going to have to box a little bit clever here. They can't get overexcited and burn too many men early. What we're going to have then is, I would anticipate a fairly large break. I don't know, maybe we could be heading for sort of 8 to 12 riders or something in the break this time. If UAE can allow a smaller break to go through, that would obviously be first prize if it's just 3 or 4 riders. But I think we might get a bit of a bigger break. And then the question is, who's going to chase the break down? Certainly, if Visma have riders in the break, they might want to use them later, but they won't be on the front chasing. If I'm UAE, I'm quite happy to let the yellow jersey sail to someone like a Ben Healy who could be in the break as well. And as I say, I think we could see a little bit more defensive strategy from UAE. On the other hand, it's 165 Ks, not the longest stage in the world, so they could control it. And if Pogacar if he's got this one eyed out for a victory, of course, then they'll keep it close and potentially take the win there. But as you can see, it's sort of up and down all day. Penultimate climb, 5.1 kilometers at 6.4%. And then we got the final climb. It's a new climb, I believe, on the tour. It's kind of a straight valley road from what I can see, 3.3 kilometers at 8%. So it's a decent gradient. And, I think the riders would have expected to come into today with a relatively easy day behind them on Sunday. And as it happened, that stage was ridden very, very hard. You could see tired legs. And there are going to be some very, very tired legs out there on Monday. They also haven't had a rest day since the start of the tour. I think we're going to get absolute carnage on the stage one way or another. And there's going to be a lot of drama. I do give the breakaway quite a strong chance because I think it's going to be a strong break because of the terrain. And as I say, I'm not convinced that UAE are going to sort of throw everything at bringing this one back for the sprint finish. A lot may depend on some of the other competitors. One way or another, you do not want to miss 1 minute of the stage. It should be an absolute beaut. Let's have a look at the betting. A reminder about that Tour de France refund, which we got to capitalize on, I guess you would say, for the first time with our Milan bet in stage 9. Betting here is at Sunbet Pogacar 2-1. I did see some 9-4 earlier. I've seen him a bit shorter than that as well. If you are going to back Pogacar, and I was very tempted because, he's a worthy favorite every chance he wins the stage. But at these sort of prices, just given the terrain and given the fact that, I'm not sure how aggressive they're going to be in chasing the break, I just can't go for it at the price. But if you do, wait for World Sports Betting's prices. Take it there so you've got that insurance for second place. Ben Healy, well, he was my initial pick on the stage, but 8-1, I just couldn't have him. The other thing about Healy is if the break is given freedom, he could be the man to ride into yellow. And I don't think Pogacar should be too unhappy with that. But what you often find is if a yellow jersey's on the cards for a rider, he tends to work a lot harder in the break because he's riding for his own classification, short-term classification goals. and it often means he's a little bit tired and can't necessarily finish the stage off. So Healy for me, a very big runner, but at 8-1, I couldn't have him. Let's pop down here and I'll tell you what I've gone for. I'm restricting a very small stake here. I've gone for the 3 at the stage. As I say, seriously weighed up a sort of a 2-unit play on Pogacar at World Sports Betting, but I'm going half a unit on Gregor at 16-1. He showed a bit early in the tour. He hasn't really done much since then. He's sort of 11 minutes back, and he might be allowed a bit of freedom to get into the break, and certainly he'll have every motivation to do so on Bastille Day. And then a man who's sitting well back at the moment, but he showed some good form on the stage where we backed Healy. I think it was stage 8 or 7 last week. Michael Storer, he is a 25-1 at BetExchange. I actually think, looking around, that is going to shorten to about the 20-1 mark. So you may want to move quickly if you do want to follow me on that one. And then Van Eertveld, he's also well back in the classification, but a good rider on his day. I don't really know if he's got the legs. Probably one's at a bit more than 40-1, but I see that's what he is there. So those are my 3 selections: a 16-1, a 25-1, and a 40-1 shot. This is going to be one hell of a stage. We got a rest day on Tuesday. I must say, I'm looking forward to a bit of a rest as well, but not before we've seen absolute chaos in the Bastille Day stage. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you, what will it be, Tuesday night for the preview for stage 11. Of course, the high mountains are getting close. We've got our first proper summit finish that is taking place on Thursday. And really, the action is just going to get hotter and hotter from here.